Okay, good evening and welcome to YouTube. Iyun Benzion. Today's daf is Nazir daf Yud Beis, number 12. I mentioned at the end of the regular share that I'm going to try something new in Iyun Benzion, try to recalibrate my shiurim to be more focused on raid, what they call raid in yeshivas, meaning things which are relate to more Gemaras than just the present Gemara. It's not localized to the Gemara you're learning, but it's actually relevant to a lot of sugyas and shas because people, have more of a connection to that because they feel like they learn and understand Shas in a more total way. So let's try to introduce it today. The Gemara today is one of the more famous Gemaras, Maseches Nazir, because it's quoted in other Gemaras. The Gemara starts on Yud Aleph and Beis, and two lines from the bottom. Amar Yitzchak Kol Bar Yosef Amar Yochanan Omer L'Shlucho, top of Yud Beis and Aleph. Save it Kaddish L'Isha Stam. He says, "Go, I'm desperate. Just get me any woman to marry me, Makadish to me. Asr b'chal and the guy dies. You don't know who's Makadish. Asr b'chal nashin ba'olam. You can't marry any woman in the world. He doesn't know who's Makadish. Now, what's the problem? The problem is that the woman who is potentially Makadish, or who is now Makudeshes to, she has sisters, she has mother or grandmother, she has daughters, granddaughters, and you can't be married to those people if you're Mekadeshes to a different woman. If you're Mekadeshes to a woman, you can't now marry her sisters or her daughter or her mother. You can't marry these ladies. And we're worried that any lady that you marry is really a relative of the one that the Shliach Mekadesh for you. So it's a problem. Now, obviously, the obvious question the Gemara deals with this is that there's a concept of rove, right? Rove basically tells me that when there's a majority of something, even in Beis Din, when they judge a case, right? If you have 12 in a din of fashos, 12 judges say he's zakai, and 11 say he's chayav, he's culpable for the death penalty, and 12 say no. So you go after hamlahatos, and even if it's a slim majority over there, a little bit above 50%, right? You acquit him. Here's 99.99% the woman you're Makadish now is not related to the woman that your Shliach is Makadish. So why don't we rely on rove? So the Gemara answers, and the Gemara compares it to birds flying around. Whereas there's birds flying around, where we do take into account rove, is that birds are not kavua. The Gemara doesn't say the word kavua, but this is the way the Rishonim explain kavua. They don't have a set place. Birds fly around. They don't always go back to where they live. But women, either your Makadish, Shliach is Makadish, are in her father's house, or if he was Makadish in the marketplace, it doesn't make a difference. She's going to go back to where she lives. So wherever she lives is called kavua. She has a set place in the world. She has a location, an address where she lives. So kol kavua kol mechsal mechsadami. Any one where they're generally stationary, the residence is stationary. It's kol kavua mechsal is we treat it as 50%, 50%. It's a suffix del raisa, right? This is a famous Gemara in Masechah School, and where the Gemara says you buy meat from. There's a row of a strip mall, and there were 10 stores. 9 were selling kosher meat, and 1 was selling treif meat. And you bought meat from one of them, and you're not sure what you bought from. So even though you have a row, right, 9 out of 10, 90% of the stores are kosher, you can't eat the meat because and these stores are kavua. Now, if the meat was found on the street lying in front of the stores, then you could apply row because they called it parish barash. You're addressing something which is removed from it's moving. The meat is moving, right? The stores remain stores. They don't move. Stores generally, brick and mortar stores don't move. They don't jump on Amazon so quickly. They actually are in the world. They're in brick and mortar stores. That's like calling brick and mortar stores. So they're there, the stores. So generally, it's most Rishonim understand. So then the Doraisa, Savik Doraisa L'chumra. Kavua, wherever we know Kavua, the Gemara and Ksubos give us the Makor and Daf Tedvav. Kamlo V'arit, the Gemara says, Kol Kavua Ma'aseh Machzadami. Savik Doraisa, right? Savik Doraisa L'chumra is Doraisa according to most opinions. So the Rishonim here deal with the following question. The following question is, you can't marry. You send a shliach to Mekadesh, right? But this shliach, he died. He was Mekadesh, a woman, right? How could any woman get married, right? Because maybe they're Mekudeshes to this man, right? Maybe they're Mekudeshes to this man. He made a shliach. How could they get married, right? They're kavua, these ladies. They're kavua. And once you're engaged to one man, once you're mikudeshes to one man, you can't marry anybody else. You're also calling out like a hekdesh. How could she marry? So there's two different answers. Rabbeinu Tam says that the woman herself is believed. She can say, I wasn't mikudeshes by the shliach, so we believe her. Right? Other women, they don't, right? We're talking about vis-a-vis the person who sent the shliach. He doesn't know who's Makadesh, who she's Makadesh. So, right, to say that now the woman is a relative, that he's going to marry a relative of the woman who's Makadesh, right? The relative has no idea who the shliach, right? The shliach was Makadesh, her relative, but she has no idea about it. It's possibly no idea about it. But here, it's the woman herself. She can admit that. The other answer Tosfos puts forth, here Tosfos here, in Masechet Nazir and Gittin, I'll quote the article, says that on a biblical level, the law majority doesn't apply in this situation. Really, role applies in the Raisa over here. And even the principal should be allowed to marry another woman. Rabbi Yochanan is saying the rule of rove does not apply in this case. It's only a rabbinic penalty for acting irresponsibly by sending an agent to betroth an unspecified woman. This penalty obviously applies only to the principal who acted irresponsibly, but not to the others. Thus, any other man may marry without a concern that the woman in the question is already betrothed. Right? Any man can marry a lady because it's only midal raisa. You do apply rove, even though kavua kol kavua masmachsam is seemingly din dal raisa. For some reason, Tosfos says it's not dal raisa over here, and it's only the rabbanon that the shliach can't marry someone because he was negligent. He should have made a name, go mekadesh a certain woman. He's negligent. He should have been aware that the shliach could die, so he wouldn't find out about it. This penalty we don't apply to the woman; we apply to the man who made the shliach. So what's the machlokas in Rabbeinu Tam and the other opinion in Tosfos? So I think it's really like this. Even though we say kavua kol kol masam masam din dal raisa, it's machlokas rishonim. Is something raisa lechumra din dal raisa or is it din rabbanan? Meaning that which you say when you have a suffix over a Torah law, you go lechumra, you're machmir. Is that the Torah tells you to be machmir? Only the rabbanan tells you to be machmir. And it's a machlokas rishon. Like the Rashba and other rishonim say that it's a machlokas. The Rabbanan del Rice, the Rashba, the Rambam, I think I'm all about this. But I always like to say, and I've said this many times, that I think both of them are true. That sometimes some of the Rice is in Din Rice, and sometimes it's in the Rabbanan. And the Rambam says, right, the classical case, and we know it's a Din Rice, is because an Asha, a Korban Asham, right, a Korban Asham Safek, right, you're not sure if you did a Malacha on Shabbos, right? If you do a Malacha on Shabbos B'Shogeg, you're chayav to bring a Korban Chadas. You're not sure, you're bringing Korban Asham. To bring a Korban Asham is in Dal Raisa, right? You can't bring Chul Nazaros. So there, if you're not sure to do Malach on Shabbos, you're bringing an Asham Toloi, it's called. So you see, it's Dal Raisa. That is only the Rambam is only talking about is Chazik Yisura. One of the examples, not just Shabbos, Chalev, eating a piece of forbidden fats from an animal. So if you know there's two pieces of meat here, and you know one of them for sure is Chalev, right? So then it's called Chazik Yisura. You go Savik Dal Raisa L'Chum and bring Asham Toloi. But the Rambam says if there's only one piece of meat and you're not sure if it's actually chaylev or not, so then you don't bring a korban asham taloi because that's how Rabbeinu L'Chomer midrabanan apparently. So here also, I think that's what they're arguing about. Rabbeinu Tam and Tosfos. Rabbeinu Tam says that kavu mechsa dami is a din dal raisa over here, right? I mean it's a din dal raisa, meaning go savik raisa l'chumra midol raisa over here. And that's why he has to come into the answer and say that we trust the woman herself. However, the Tosfos answer, the main Tosfos answer of Tosfos, is that really, yes, everyone agrees kol kavul mechsa is a din dal raisa. The question is, that which we say kol kavul mechsa is like a sabik dal raisa, and you go l'chumra, but we only go l'chumra with the rabbanan because, like the case of 10 stores, right? It's kavua, or the woman, she's living in a house. It's not exactly as chazik yisura. It's not exactly, right? We have 9 stores that sell kosher, and one sells treif. We don't know, the piece of meat is in your hand. You don't know where you bought it from. So, yes, the store, there is one store which is kavua, which there's a chazaka that sells treif meat. You know, you go into that store, they sell treif meat. But we're not judging the stores here. We're judging the piece of meat in your hand. It came from the stores. So it's tangential to our question what the stores are. So yes, the stores are kavua. So it's like this chazik yisrael. It's like we're talking about the chaylev. You know there's a piece of chaylev over here. But it's not the question. The question is about the piece of meat in your hand. You don't know which store it came from. So the concept of kol kavua mechsa and Tosfos is saying over here, that's all something the Raisa l'chumra. It's only the Rabbanan. So here also it's only the Rabbanan, right? That's where machmir the Raisa is only the Rabbanan. And therefore the Rabbanan were machmir in a case where the shliach was negligent. But they're not machmir the woman, she wasn't negligent. I think that's the correct explanation in Tosos that Kol Gvul Mesa Mesa Dami is so the Raisa, but it's the Chomra only Rabbanon because it's not like Chazik Isur like the Rambam talks about. Hope you enjoyed tonight's share. See you in the next one.